I'm Junia Doan. This is Uncommon Sense with Junia. Uncommon Sense is about sharing a part of yourself for the benefit of others. And thank you so much for joining us today. Our guest is Dr. Keith Priddy, President and CEO of Northwood University here in Midland. Dr. Priddy came to Northwood having served as president of Wash College for 7 years. In the private sector, he held government affairs positions with Amoco Corporation and became their senior Washington representative. He earned a Bachelor of Science degree in Education from Western Michigan University and a JD from Thomas Cooley Law School in Lansing. So welcome. Really happy to hear that you're a part of our community now for a few years.
Oh, we're very glad to be here.
And I would like to hear about Northwood today. It has grown, it's got many campuses, it's got different schools. Tell us about it.
I would love to. Northwood University today is a much bigger institution than a lot of people here in the Great Lakes Bay region might know. Our campus here in Midland is our home campus. It's our main campus with approximately 2,000 undergraduate students and about 400 graduate students here in Midland. But in addition to that, we have two other what we would call full-service residential campuses in West Palm Beach, Florida, and just outside of Dallas, Texas, in Cedar Hill, Texas. Those are each about 1,000 students, growing at the present time in states that are having a little better economic time than we're having here in Michigan, so there is some growth potential. But in addition to that, we have the Richard DeVos Graduate School of Management, which is now offered not just here in Michigan on our campus in Midland, but also in Troy, Michigan, in Lansing, Michigan, in Grand Rapids, Michigan as of this fall, in Texas and Florida at our campuses there, but also at our one of our program centers in Montreux, Switzerland. So the graduate school has been a large part of our growth in the last few years. In addition to that, we operate what we call the adult degree program, and that operates through 28 different centers in 8 different states around the United States. Many of the sites are on military bases. They're in automobile or corporate centers where we've been invited in by an employer that believes in continuing education. And the profile of one of our adult degree students is someone that's probably 30 or 35 years old. They're working full-time. They often have a family and lots of responsibilities. So the classes are held in the evenings and weekends and online in ways that make it very accessible to working professionals. And then the last group, the group that is growing probably the fastest in our university, is our 5 international program centers. I mentioned Montreux, Switzerland, which is absolutely a beautiful, beautiful place. But we also have 2 campuses in the People's Republic of China. We have a campus in Colombo, Sri Lanka, and a campus in Malaysia. So we have a very large and growing international population, which is wonderful for our domestic students, gives them the opportunity to study overseas, and the diversity that it creates on all of our campuses is really, I think, a strong value for our university.
The foreign campuses or the international, they're teaching business undergraduate degrees?
They're teaching undergraduate degrees, except in Switzerland where we have undergrad and graduate. But the other 4 sites are all undergraduate. We do that in partnership with existing institutions, strong institutions. We're in 2 of the largest public university campuses in China, for instance. But they believe so strongly in our free market education, if you can imagine, in the People's Republic of China, because they need to grow jobs. And our graduates in that country do very well with finding employment with Fortune 500 companies and growing the urban infrastructure, which is so important to that country's political and economic goals.
That's thrilling.
So it's, yes, we're very blessed to have a very strong profile, and we have over 1,500 students in our 5 centers outside the United States right now. We have a large number of Chinese students that are studying here in the United States with us.
They can transfer amongst
and they would
the
transfer
campuses.
back and forth, and they come and they enjoy Michigan. I have to tell you, they also enjoy Florida. They like the weather. But particularly those that come from our campus in northern China, in Changchun, China, where the winters are much harsher than they are even here. They really like our Florida campus with the good weather.
What does a president and CEO do? What are your responsibilities?
Well, we do a little bit of everything. For Northwood, it's about, particularly being as dispersed as we are, it's about setting a strategic plan. We've gone to what we call One Northwood. I mean, we want to ensure that our curriculum is consistent across the globe. So that an employer that would hire a student in China would feel the same background, the same training, the same expertise as if they were hiring from Midland or from Dallas, Texas, or West Palm Beach, Florida. So consistency of the program and having a strong strategic plan that we are all working together across the system is a very important part of our leadership role. Building a strong team. You can imagine, as dispersed as we are, having great campus leaders, and I'm blessed to have wonderful people, I mean, extraordinary people that lead our programs across the globe and all do very, very good work and have to work very collaboratively. I mean, we can't have silos within our organization because our size just doesn't permit that. I mean, we're a total of about 6,500 students, but we are spread out in such ways that we have to collaborate very effectively in order to make that work. So that's an important part of it. It's also, you know, the outreach, as any university president will tell you, the fundraising is a big part of what we do as an independent not-for-profit institution that doesn't seek or receive any funds from any government, state or federal. We are very blessed to have a strong donor base, and you know, virtually all of our growth, all of the bricks and mortar that you would see here on the Midland campus is provided by donors and friends to the university. Tuition really just covers the operational. So there's a great deal of fundraising that goes on, and I enjoy that. It's a labor of love from my perspective because Northwood really is a very special place with a lot more than just, you know, 3 campuses and 5 overseas centers, but it has a true philosophy. It has a set of outcomes that we're committed to, and I'm blessed to have followed really, really talented leaders who have made this into a very special institution.
How do you get people to work collaboratively, knowing there are different personalities? What have you learned to be effective?
Well, what I've learned, and particularly with the distances involved in our organization, is it's all about communication. I mean, we've got very good people, so I don't worry about the quality and about their education and about their background. It's about people making sure we're always communicating and that we're in sync with one another. You can imagine if you were the academic dean on the Florida campus, there's going to be issues that come up day to day that the faculty would bring you, that the students would bring you, that you're going to have to deal with. Those or similar issues are being dealt with in Michigan or in Texas or maybe in China. So collaboration is of critical importance, and communication is the first key to that. I mean, it can't be done if we're not regularly talking to one another. We used a lot of technology to do that. We have our officers' meetings in order to save on travel. We do a lot of meetings where we're all together, but some of us are on the screen from different locations around the globe, and it works very, very well.
My mother's family is from Oklahoma. I was born and raised in New York, but we spent a lot of time in Oklahoma and elsewhere. And I know there are regional differences in cultural differences, you might say.
There are.
How do you work, or what do you need to be sensitive to that works in Florida or different parts of the world? What did you, I think all of us have to learn that.
Well, and I've had to learn that as I've come to Northwood. I mean, when I was at Walsh College, a very fine institution, it is all here in Michigan, and primarily in the Detroit metro market. There are distinctly different differences in our student bodies, and when you look at the diversity that we have with students from about 75 different countries around the globe studying on our campuses, all of our campuses have significant diversity, which creates a lot of interesting challenges. But our regions are very different. The economic activity currently going on in Texas is much stronger than it is in Michigan at the present time, or even Florida, which was impacted pretty severely. and the real estate markets which is an important part of their operations. So what we find is we all have to be sensitive. There has to be a great deal of empathy for one another, and you can't just sit there and say, we must do it this way. We have to say, no, we need to move toward this goal. How can we do that together? How would you do it in Florida? How would you do it in Texas? And sooner or later, solutions arrive that are very workable, even in very diverse cultures and with different language differences and those kinds of things. I mean, our student body in Texas, as you might imagine, is primarily Hispanic. Many of our students, they're the first generation to go to college on our campus in Texas. And they're really setting a whole new mark for their family and for their communities. That's a big challenge.
Now, did you set a whole new mark for your family?
Well, I must tell you, I was blessed in that regard. Both of my parents had not only an undergraduate education, but were able to go to graduate school, and education was a very important issue in our household. My mother was originally a school teacher and continued her education while myself and my three siblings were growing up, and ultimately became a school social worker, school psychologist in her school district. My father was very actively involved in local government, was the village clerk and then the city clerk of my hometown, and became the first postmaster, and served concurrently on the city council and the school board for 30 plus years. So we had a very strong sense early on of public service. We had a strong sense of how important education was, and all three of my siblings and I were able to take full advantage of that. And all of my siblings and I have graduate degrees. We've been very blessed to get very fine educations, and because of that, we all have a strong sense of giving back, because, you know, in our world in education, and particularly at Northwood, I mean, that's a key component in what we call the Northwood idea, that we want our graduates to go out and become very successful in the business world. But then we expect them over time, as they create wealth, as they create jobs, as they create opportunity in their communities, to give back in their communities in so many different ways.
You know, last weekend I saw Never Say Never. This is the film on Justin Bieber, the 16-year-old phenomenon who, in the course of a very few years, is sold out Madison Square Garden.
I know all about him. I have twin 16-year-old daughters.
Oh, do you?
They think he's very cool.
Well, his agent or manager, I'm not sure which, in the film is interviewed, and the manager said, part of my job is to raise a really good man on behalf of the family. And what did your parents emphasize to make you the very good person you are?
Well, they emphasized a lot of different things. We were always pushed to treat people fairly, treat people as you would want to be treated. We were incented in a certain sense, but we were pushed wouldn't be the right word, but we were. My parents always provided us with the opportunity. I can remember my parents, because both of them worked from the time I was in school all the way through, saying, you can do whatever you want, and we want you to try different things, and we encourage that. But in our community, and this was on the downriver side of Detroit, where I grew up, there was great opportunity. I mean, we were able to take advantage of sports. We were very involved in the church. We were very involved in community activities because of my father's leadership roles in the community. We got opportunities that I just thought were phenomenal. Looking back at the time, it was a bit intimidating. But our parents regularly prepared us for a life of being engaged in the community and making a difference in a community. And I really think, you know, I thank them every day for what they did in our early education and just making available to us opportunities and never holding us back, never saying, well, no, your mother's working today, so you can't do that. It was always, if you want to try that, we'll figure out a way to do that. And my three siblings and I all had wonderful educational opportunities. We've all had wonderful career opportunities that have come from that.
You're such a public figure, as was your dad and mom. What happens when you're lonely? I mean, who do you talk to?
That's one of the hardest things in this kind of business. I mean, you have to lead a very large institution and a very dispersed institution, and you really can't share your innermost feelings with a lot of those people. They're looking to a leader that's going to motivate and help them to move forward. So you develop networks outside of that. I mean, I have my best friend works totally outside of higher education, and we talk regularly. He's in a completely different world, but he gives me great advice. My siblings I still talk to, who work in different fields and are very helpful. I'm blessed in that my wife is an extraordinary resource who gives a great deal in this community, and she's the best sounding board I have. She always has a better sense than I do of what's going on around us. So I listen very carefully to Gretchen, and it's paid dividends for me in my life and career, and I hope I can be equal the partner for her. Because she's involved in so many activities and so many great things on campus. I mean, one of the things that she did this summer, her background is in design work, and when we decided to upgrade our cafeteria on campus, we did it on very short notice. And we kind of drafted Gretchen to come in and do all the design in the new cafeteria. And I think it's worked out very well. Sales are up, students are happier. Potential students and their parents really love the layout and design. And so
how did you two meet?
Oh, we met many years ago when we were both living in Lansing, Michigan. I was going to law school and working full-time in the state legislature. She was working in state government, and ironically, my assistant in my office was married to her boss. And they kept trying to bring us together, and being two independent individuals and busy individuals, that never quite happened. There were numerous times where we were invited to be at the same event together, and that never happened. We finally met one another outside of work and decided that they were absolutely right. And it's been 27 wonderful years for me.
What do you think a husband needs to do to do his part in a successful marriage?
Well, I mean, a marriage is a partnership. We've got to support one another is the most important thing. There is so much going on in the Northwood world, in the Midland community, and the various other communities, and all the travel and the things we have to do. But you have to put that marriage first and foremost. I mean, I couldn't begin to be successful in my work life if I wasn't strongly supported and hopefully providing support to my wife and to my family. That's a critical component. And so Gretchen and I have to work hard to carve out time for one another. We do. It's wonderful that she loves the educational process. She has taught at the undergraduate level in the past at very fine institutions, and she spends much of her time right now with our children and their activities, which are numerous in the community, and really right now our twins are very involved in club volleyball, which is taking them all over the country. So they're traveling a lot, and making time for one another, making sure that we're focused on those core values that really do make a difference for each of us and for our family is got to be a high priority.
Which are those core values?
Well, in my mind, those core values are, I'm not sure I know how to say that very well. I get rather inarticulate when I talk about my personal life, but I would say showing love and attention, showing an interest in what each of us are doing and staying focused, no matter all the things swirling around you, staying focused on the things that matter. And in my life, that's my wife and family.
You are blessed.
We are blessed. I know that. I thank my lucky stars every day because we've had a great life. We've lived in wonderful places. We love living here in the Great Lakes Bay region. You know, we consider Midland to be the most resourced small town in America, and it truly is. And we're so proud to go other places and be in other communities and be able to say, oh, we've got that. We've got even more than that.
What about transitions? I mean, all of us have transitions. You've been at one college, you've been in business, you've been here, you know. What have you learned about welcoming or rejecting change?
Change is, you know, and coming to grips with change is, I think, one of the hardest things for anyone to do, or any organization particularly. But moving through transitions, I mean, we're in the latter stage of our academic year as we put this broadcast together. We'll have graduation in just a few weeks. Our students are going to finish their studies. They're going to go out into the world of work. They're going to start graduate school in some cases. Most of them are going to go directly into the job market. And they're starting on a whole new adventure. And so talking with our students now about transitions and accepting change and being able to accommodate different styles and so much happening in their lives so quickly is a very important time. I mean, they're excited, they're anxious, but many of them, I mean, we spend time during this last month in the semester doing breakfasts and dinners and other things individually with our graduates so that we can talk with them about how they can stay focused, how they can stay involved with their alma mater.
What did you say about staying focused?
Well, when I say staying focused, I mean, they have so many new opportunities in front of them that it's sometimes hard. And many of, I mean, our students have come to us, they've moved from home to campus. While they've been on campus maybe for 4 years, they may have lived in a variety of locations. They've grown dramatically, they've made new friends, they have mentors. And really what I'm talking about in these transitions are remembering to take full advantage of everything that has been given to them. Many of our students are blessed because we have a very strong focus on experiential education. They've done internships. They have worked in the businesses that they ultimately are likely to be joining. And they need to take advantage of that experience.
I have a question. You were talking about them being enthusiastic and optimistic. I think it's the only way to live. But often one lives in a sea of pessimism, right? Do you consciously try to teach that? Is it a function of the Northwood experience? How do you instill that in people who may not naturally come to that, or may come from environments where they have more to worry about?
Well, and many of our students do come from very tough environments. But I do think that's a part of what we call the Northwood idea. And that's all about, you know, the power of capitalism and free markets and free enterprise. I mean, it takes an optimistic person to make the capitalism system work. When two parties come together to execute a deal, I mean, one of the most important things I see, and we all see it every day, I mean, when we're purchasing goods in the grocery store, when there's ultimately that exchange between the goods that I'm buying and the cash that I'm giving, usually both the salesperson and the buyer are saying thank you. Because both have had a need met. I'm willing to give up some of the cash that I've earned to buy this product that this store is willing to sell, and we both should be happy. We should be satisfied with that transaction. And when capitalism works well,
individual.
And it does celebrate.
It supports individual opportunity, responsibility, and effort, and vision.
That's something that is core to what we talk about. You know, individual responsibility and individual effort. is all a component of what we strongly believe in at Northwood, and it is a very optimistic view. And there are those in the media and elsewhere that will take a very negative view. I mean, I think generally, the media has to excite the public, and they often are showing us some of the worst things happening rather than the best things. But I think day to day, our students find, and as they graduate, as they go off into the world of work, they're very excited and every day look forward to coming to work if they've
That's a
chosen
natural
the right
transition,
field.
end of college.
It is, absolutely.
But how in life have you noticed when it's time to choose a change or move on? Or is it a feeling? Is it a...
I think that's one of the hardest things for all of us.
Right.
You might have a feeling that you need to move on. You're not as challenged as you used to be, and you can feel that there are things out there. But sometimes opportunity doesn't present itself. I mean, sometimes, for instance, here in Michigan, I'm sure there are people that have gone through job transitions and other things and are feeling like maybe there isn't the opportunity they need. They clearly need to move on. Often education is a key way of doing that, re-educating ourselves or educating ourselves in a whole different direction for something that would be new and invigorating and be good for us, for our families, for our communities. But accepting transitions and knowing when to move, I think, is one of those things that kind of delineates those that can be very successful from those that are less successful.
Thank you. We want to thank Keith Britty for a lot of good wisdom. First of all, it's wonderful to have parents that support you and were leaders in their own field, teaching and local community, teach you self-control, opportunity. You had a family that supported experimentation, right?
Absolutely.
And also achievement and curiosity. As a leader, you just over and over talked about communication, getting people to understand, getting people to come together, learning from the differences in the different campi, and also that sense of pulling together comes together in your marriage, that not only do you do your part, but the idea of paying attention to, right?
Absolutely.
Showing the love, having the time for, and the self-knowledge to be sensitive to, that one needs private relationships, private space where you can say your heart, because as a leader, you have a different role.
Absolutely.
And you need that to support the others and to maintain those sense of relationships and to be conscious of not only opportunity, but when things are just maybe not as exciting as they were, or your energy is less, you didn't say this, but your energy is less for doing things,
Sure.
that it's time to look more broadly. But over and over, the leitmotif, optimism, individualism, responsibility, confidence, faith in the future, faith in people. It's a very wonderful thing to share with all of us, and I am very grateful that you've been here. So,
thank you for having me. I appreciate it very much.
all right. So everybody, thank you, and thank you for sharing your time with us as well. And we will see you next week. And remember what I always say, kindness counts from your heart. Keep it open. Do something kind for someone you know today and someone you don't know, and do it every single day. Thank you, and we'll see you next time.
To contact Junia, send her an email at info@juniadoan.com. For more information, program schedules, and news about future guests, go to www.juniadoan.com. Thanks for joining us. See you next time for Uncommon Sense with Junia Doan.